In studio, Carl Pittman, candidate for sheriff of Harris County, Republican candidate. That election for the Republican primary will be in the spring, and then the general election next November. And joining him and endorsing him, America's Sheriff, Joe Arpaio, from Maricopa County. Since 1992, he's been the sheriff there. Sheriff, let me ask you a question. Whenever you put prisoners in pink underwear, the tent cities, I think a lot of folks like me say, you know, finally we're getting the priorities right. And then you see the Supreme Court telling California, let these people out. And then you see Officer Kevin Will killed this weekend by an illegal alien that in and out of prison, in and out of deportations. Do you think, what is the disconnect that keeps us from understanding that prisoners, I don't want them abused, I don't want them coming out worse than they went in, but by the same token, you see case at the ACLU going on record this week that they deserve to have porn. What are they going to do with it? Where do you think this disconnect entered the public policy discussion where we're spending more on prisoners than we are on students?
Well, in general terms, you know, I'm going to say again, I'm a senior citizen, so I have a background years and years ago where we had a pretty good country. We still do. But I think people have lost their common sense, quite frankly. It's all common sense. Whatever you said is common sense. Mm. And I think the politics has probably entered too much into, you know, running the government, doing the right thing, running the prisons, the jails, cracking down on illegal immigration. You always seem to have an element of politics involved. And I think that's the big problem. Porn, I took that away in 1992, and I was sued. Went up to the Supreme Court. I got by with that. But why would you have porn, like you mentioned, in a jail?
You're constantly sued by the left, whether it's LULAC or MALDEF or the Obama administration using my tax dollars to sue you for putting in place, and using Arizona's tax dollars to sue you for putting in place policies that 75% of the people want you to put into place. Where does the money come to defend those?
Which lawsuit you talking about?
Any. I mean, you must have to spend millions per year defending.
Yeah, and it's really not that bad because a lot of it is hype. By the way, just yesterday, the Justice Department sued me, and they requested that be dismissed. I guess we may have won, but they're still investigating me for alleged racial profiling. That's okay in other matters. But you know, if you don't do nothing, it's really difficult to get any heat. But if you're going to do what you feel is right to do, even though it's controversial, I'm the elected sheriff. I don't report to any governor. I report to the people of Maricopa County, Arizona. In 50 years I've been in law enforcement, including covering the Texas-U.S. border when I was head of the federal drug enforcement for 4 years, plus Mexico, I was a regional director, plus Arizona. I'm one guy that knows where the Mexican-U.S. border. I don't see anybody asking me my advice. Carl Pittman had to come all the way to Phoenix to talk to me. Where are U.S. senators? Where's the White House? Where's the governor of Texas? How come nobody's talking about me? I'm talking about my 15 years as the top law enforcement officer at the Mexican-U.S. border. Where is everybody? I'm not talking about my 18 years as sheriff. That makes me a little angry in a way, but you know why they don't want to talk to me? They don't like my answer. They don't like what I'm going to say. That's why they don't talk, and that's a shame. That is a shame. I have a deep feeling for Texas. Great state. I lived in San Antonio. My daughter was born there. You have a great state here in Texas. But sometimes you have to do some controversial programs to do what's right for the people. You have great people in this state. And Carl, I like him for many other reasons, which I can't say probably if you get into race or what. I don't want to get into that. But he's a fighter. And you got to be a fighter sometimes if you want to win and also do what's right for the people. most politician people running for office, they tell you all this. I've endorsed so many people, they even forget, when they win, they forget to even give me a call to say thank you.
Pittman, don't forget to call him.
No, he'll call.
It's never gonna happen.
So, we're living in a tough era right now. We got problems, not just illegal immigration. We got terrorists, we got crime. And one thing that I want to advise the next sheriff here is, first of all, what do you call it, department or office?
Office.
Good. Most sheriffs say it's a department. We are not departments. We don't report to anybody but the people. It's the office of the sheriff. So I got to give Harris County credit for that. But you have to understand that if you are elected, you serve the people. Chiefs of police, I feel sorry for them. They're bureaucrats.
Right.
They have to worry about the city manager, the council. The sheriff doesn't have to worry about anybody but the people that they serve. I'm very strong about that because I've been a bureaucrat for 32 years in the Army, police. I can go on and on.
Let me ask you a question. Recently, the United States Supreme Court, in a 5-3 decision with Kagan recusing herself, upheld a 2007 law. You've been enforcing that law.
The only one.
Let me ask you this. When you go in and raid these businesses that are hiring illegal aliens, are they hiring illegals because they can pay them less? Are they hiring illegals because some people say they'll work harder? Why is a company willing to break the law to hire these people? What is their advantage?
Profit. Because they get cheap labor. You know what? We've done 46. Raided McDonald's, Sizzler, Steakhouse, Payway. In fact, I can't go anywhere to eat anymore. Maybe I can get a Mexican restaurant out here that nobody will know me. But no. And you know what? They accuse me of breaking up families, that they're dishwashers. No, the majority have false identification. False identification. Your identification could be. So nobody says thank you, Sheriff. You know, you're taking away guys that have fake identification. That's serious crime. Why are we the only ones doing that in Arizona? My office. There's a state law. Why is my office the only one enforcing the human smuggling and locking them all up? Why is that when you have laws on the books and they're not being enforced? Now, the next sheriff has promised me, he said it right, I think he just said it, he's going to enforce all the laws. You took an oath of office to do that. You enforce all the laws, including illegal immigration, and don't worry about the Hispanic vote like most politicians do. That's why they don't do it. Or employers hire to get the cheap labor, or they're afraid to aggravate the president or members of Congress. Do what you have to do, and you'll be successful.
And do what you're supposed to do. When you go in and afterwards you talk to these business owners, is their defense, I didn't know I had Sheriff Joe Arpaio is our guest. Is their defense, I didn't know? Is their defense, everybody else is doing it? What do they tell you off the record when you talk to them?
Well, it's always that they didn't know, you know. It's a tough law in Arizona. It's a civil offense only. It's tough to prove knowingly that they hired. But you know what? I'm still doing it. I'm still raiding businesses. I'm still taking out the illegal aliens that have false identification. So I'm still doing my job.
Well, and the shame, the public shame.
Yeah.
We've had some cases here where folks have been busted for it, and it hurts their brand.
Well, they call me a publicity hound. But when I do this, a lot of television happens to be in front of the business, and I'm there too. But send a message, and we got others coming up. Now, the Supreme Court ruled in our favor. I would hope that now it might generate some interest by other law enforcement agencies in the state of Arizona. You got this 1070. You heard about that.
Sure.
You know that very well.
Sure.
What good is it if nobody is going to enforce it? I'm not concerned about that. We've been doing our job without the 1070. So I like what Carl was saying about the 287G, increasing that in a jail. We've investigated 40,000 people and proved they're illegal. Anybody booked into the jail, since the cops won't ask, they come across that door, we ask, and we put the hold on them, they can't get out. I think Washington is going to try to play a little game with that and only say we're only interested in the violent criminals. So I can go on the illegal immigration, but he came down here not to just talk about that. He came down to look at how we run the jails and the tents.
And let's talk
that's
about
what he
that.
did.
Sheriff Joe Arpaio is our guest, and his guest is candidate for sheriff of Harris County, Carl Pittman. We'll talk to both of these gentlemen, and we'll take some of your questions. You can send them to michaelberry.com. Coming up, stay right there.